Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and welcome everybody to the review of Paramount Plus' new original film, the psychological thriller Apartment 7A, which stars Julia Garner, Diane Weiss, and this is a prequel to Rosemary's Baby, which came out in 1968. This film caught me off guard. Not that I didn't know it was coming out. It caught me off guard because I didn't know this was a prequel to Rosemary's Baby. And if that's a spoiler in any sense, I apologize. I really do. I didn't know. And now I could have missed it in the promotional build up to this film, but I didn't catch it. And so when I went into it, and I'm like, "Wait, this really got Rosemary Baby vibes in it," and all of a sudden it clicked. Because I wasn't a big fan of Rosemary's Baby. First and foremost, it's 10 years older than me, so I really didn't grow up with it per se. But I have seen it. I've seen the remake, the recent one with Zoe Saldana, what that was about 3-4 years ago. I forgot how long it was, but I just that material never really resonated with me. I never got the horror aspect of it, but whatever. I mean, it is horrifying. You get impregnated by the devil. I guess that would be scary. Of course, that's no threat to me, so I guess that's why it never really registered with me. But this is the prequel, and this is produced by Michael Bay. It's also produced by John Krasinski, and those two have teamed up in the past to give us the Quiet Place franchise. So that should excite a lot of the Quiet Place fans in the world, including me. I'm a big fan of that franchise. And this film is also directed by Natalie Erica James, who also co-wrote this film. I was looking for a film to get me, amped up and ready to go as we approach October. And we know the month of October at the very end is Halloween, and this is my favorite time of the year. I love scary movies, spooky movies, psychological thrillers, and stuff of this nature. And so I was looking for a film to usher me into this year's spooky season. And so when they released this past weekend, I was all in. I was like, okay, let's get ready for some horror. This movie didn't do it for me. This didn't get it. It's very disappointing. Even though I had zero expectations for it, I was disappointed in the sense there's nothing about this movie that is scary, nothing about it that is horrifying. I would go as far to say it's nothing psychological about it. It's just not that interesting at all. Now there's I'll take that back. There are some interesting factors in there. There's a couple of good performances. Other than that, this is bland. Let's start off with our cast. Let's start off with the star of this film, Julia Garner, who I have become a huge fan of. If you watched Ozark on Netflix, one of my favorite shows of all time, I will put it top 10 all-time greatest shows on my list. I absolutely love Ozark. It's one of the rare shows that I've watched beginning to end twice on Netflix. I've watched that series twice, all seasons, back to back. I loved Ozark. It was saddened when it ended. And one of the shining lights out of Ozark is Julia Garner's performance throughout that series, her progression throughout that series, her character arc, her growth in that role was just something to marvel at. And her performance is, second to none. I believe she won an Emmy or two on that show. I could be mistaken. I know she won some awards. Definitely was nominated a few times, but she was phenomenal. And in other projects I've seen her in, she was great in as well. Here, she was not that good. And to be honest with you, it's clearly not her fault. It is clearly not her fault. She is giving the best that she could give. That I can give her. I can give her a gold star for effort. But she wasn't given much. Her character is so one note, so one dimensional, and you know, it's kind of frustrating because you want to see these strong female characters in film, and especially with a female director. I thought it would be in better hands, but it just didn't work. She came off as a goof, really, and that's the best adjective I could give at this moment. But it just did not work at all to say that she was the lead. Oh man, it was not. It really hurt my heart because she is such a phenomenal actress, and this could have been just that role. This could have been that film to really shoot her to the moon. I mean, she's already a well-known star, but I mean, her leading a film, it's I don't know, it's real upsetting, but it's not her fault. I can honestly say that she tried. She really did try. But the standout in this film, the only reason to watch this movie, I feel, is Diane Weist's performance in this film. Now, I would have to go back and watch every Diane Weist performance to make a statement like I'm about to make, but I feel pretty confident in saying this. This is probably one of the best Diane Weist performances I've ever seen. And this is a woman's a career who goes all the way back. I mean, it got decades worth of performances to stack up against, but man, she was so impressive in this movie. Clearly the best written, the best flushed, at least the most flushed out character in this film, and performed excellently by Diane Weiss. Loved it. We could have centered the whole film around her, and this would have been a 10 times better movie because she was more interesting than Julia Garner's character. Even though Julia Garner's character is the protagonist here, but it was just like, man, I want to see more of Diane Weiss in this movie. But yeah, unfortunately, we didn't get a lot of her. But it is what it is. The other characters in this film, none of them impressed. They were just there. They were just there. The direction here was uneven, real uneven, to be honest with you. It kind of starts off one way, it goes another way in the middle, and then it ends on a completely different way. It's like watching three different movies that have the same characters in it. It was so confusing at times, and it's just frustrating because it starts off really good. The first, I would say, 40 minutes of the film was very interesting, very, very interesting, and I'm like, okay, we're in for a nice flushed out slow burn, but a good slow burn, the good burn, and I was excited to see what was coming next. And then about 40 minutes after that, it's like empty space, and it was, oh man, come on, man. And the last 20 minutes, you're like, okay, let's bounce back in it. But the last, at least the revelation at the end and all this here, it felt thrown together. It felt rushed, even though the movie started off in this slow burn, and then all of a sudden, boom, a nuclear bomb, and it steamrolls to the end, and it just felt unearned to me, and I was very disappointed by that. This may be your jam, because I know a lot of people love Rosemary Baby and puts it in high regard. I'm not a fan. I just don't like Rosemary's Baby as a film. And part of that, to keep it a buck here, part of that is because I don't like Roman Polanski as a human being. And so whatever film that he makes, part of me already goes in with disdain. And so it could be some type of bias there. So I just want to put that out there. But Rosemary's Baby is just one of those films that just didn't connect. I had the same feeling as this film, and I'm throwing that out there because if you're a fan of Rosemary's Baby, you're probably like this movie, and that's fine. You know, it just isn't for me. And even after me watching the film or during the viewing of this film, when I realized what this was, a Rosemary Baby's prequel, I was still into it. I was like, okay, I'm willing to roll with that. You know, if we can add to the mythology of that film, and you know, maybe get some clarification, and I may grow some appreciation for Rosemary's Baby. Unfortunately, this didn't do it. This just did not do it for me. But like I said, maybe you may like it. If you like Rosemary's Baby, you may like this film. But unfortunately for me, Apartment 7A gets a letter grade of a D plus. Yeah, the only thing that saved it from flunking was Diane Weiss. That was the only thing that saved it for me. There was no scares. You know, there's some elements there, but it didn't really scare me. You know, it wasn't set up right. It didn't, you know, the little jump scares and whatnot. It just didn't do nothing. I was hoping for more, but I got much, much less. As far as Michael Bay producing these horror films or trying to recapture the gold of these remakes that he's making. I mean, this isn't his first foray in touching classics. Let's not forget Michael Bay produced the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, which was horrible. The Friday the 13th remake, which wasn't bad. I know a lot of people rag on that remake. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good, but it wasn't bad. But it wasn't up there with the Friday the 13th lore, I would say. He also produced, it was a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, that was great. I actually enjoyed the remake. The sequel to it, not so much. But I did enjoy the remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre that Michael Bay produced. But short story long, stop with the remakes. Stop. Let's find something original here. There's a lot of horrifying stuff out here in the world. For example, Michael Bay produced the first Purge film. You know, well, he did produce. I'm talking about the Purge films, because there's a movie called The First Purge. I mean, The Purge. That was great. That was original, and it worked. Let's get away from the remakes. I mean, I would love to see remakes of these films, but let's not monopolize them to Michael Bay. That's all I'm saying. Let's get some fresh eyes on this who can actually give us something new and inventive and exciting and most importantly, scary, which Apartment 7A is not. But that's just one man's opinion. Maybe you feel differently. Like I said before, if you're a fan of Rosemary's Baby, I would imagine you probably would like this film. And like I said all the time, film is subjective. You know, just because I don't like a movie don't mean that you have to dislike it, and vice versa. Just because I hate a movie don't mean you have to hate it. And that's the beauty of movies, you know, that they can get into discussion, they can talk it out, and you may convince me that, hey, you know what, it wasn't that bad. I've had these discussions before many times. I walked out of a film and completely hated it. I'm like, man, this movie was trash. Got in a discussion with somebody who liked it, and they expound on it and explained why. And I was like, you know what, you're right. I still don't like it as much as you do, but it's still, I can watch. It's watchable, you know. I see where you're coming from. I see what they were trying to do, and vice versa. I've had somebody hated a movie and I liked it, and I told them, oh no, give it another shot. You're not looking at it like this. You got to look at it from this perspective, and blah blah blah. And they've come back and told me, hey, Kevin, you were right. Yeah, I know I am most of the time. But it's possible. So hey, your opportunity to do that with me with apartment eight or 7A, I should say. You can email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also do it on social media. Search for the KB Radio Network channel on all social media platforms. Also, contact the show through YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube and like this video if you don't mind. Also, don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Apartment 7A, which is currently on Paramount Plus. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.